I can assure you, God is not honored by quote-unquote worship that comes out of false churches that blaspheme His name every single time they gather. He is not honored by music that comes out of false churches that exploit the poor, the sick, the desperate, the widows, who preach a false Jesus, a false atonement, and a false gospel. God is not honored when we sing music that comes out of that.
That was Justin Peters speaking specifically about Bethel or churches like Hillsong, saying it's a false gospel, a false Jesus, a false atonement. And every time they gather, they blaspheme Jesus. So if you sing their songs, you're dishonoring God. Is this true? Are we dealing with false churches, false Jesus, false atonement, false gospel? When groups like Bethel, Hillsong gather together, they are blaspheming Jesus every single time. Or are there dangerous overstatements? Is this the difference between constructive criticism, which is wonderful and life-giving and necessary and important and should be embraced by every believer, the difference between constructive criticism and destructive criticism? Look, we're commanded in Scripture not just to love one another, right, but to speak the truth in love to one another. So I'm all for speaking the truth. Let me say it again. I'm all for constructive criticism. I have whole books with specifics, names, details, where I differ with doctrines, things that are being taught, and I lay out the issues as clearly as I can in the most constructive way I can, but confronting falsehood head on. By God's grace, I'll continue to do that. Not that I'm God's corrector-in-chief or the chief policeman in the body, but we each have our role, and as someone that's called to teach within the church, doctrinal error, practices that are erroneous, these things grieve me as well. But I'm also grieved by the bearing of false witness, by exaggerations and sometimes outright lies that are told about others in the body. What does it say in the Ten Commandments? Exodus chapter 20. What's written in verse 13? So it starts with verse 13, Lo tinaf, lo tirtzach, don't murder. Lo tinaf, don't commit adultery. Lo tignov, don't steal. That's pretty heavy. Murder, adultery, stealing. And then, Lo tanevarecha et shaker, and don't bear false witness against your neighbor. That's how serious this is in the sight of God. Take a look with me in Proverbs chapter 6. This is really striking. Proverbs chapter 6 that list the 6 things that God hates. So let's scroll down to verse 16 in Proverbs chapter 6. And it says this, Sheshena saneh Adonai v'sheva toevat nafsho. 6 things the Lord hates, 7 are an abomination to him. And then it goes through a haughty bearing, lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood. Pretty heavy stuff. A mind that hatches evil plots, feet quick to run to do evil, and then yafiach kazavim et shaker, so a lying witness, a false witness, and umishalech midanim bein achim, and the one who spreads dissension among brothers. My contention is, friends, that destructive criticism, by overstating, by exaggerating, by not giving a full and honest picture, does more harm than it does good. That's what grieves me. And I'm calling on people to step higher and do better. And while, honestly, I don't have a lot of hope right now in the hypercritics changing their stance, I'm hoping that those whom they're influencing would learn to dig a little deeper and get the facts.